Hi, this is Chris at Clever Unicorn Games and the Unicorn Collective, back with another designer interview. Today I have Paul Brook, designer and publisher at E Street Games. How are you doing today, Paul?
Very well, thank you, Chris. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, apart from the rain.
Oh, it's not raining up there, is it?
A little bit, just a little bit.
Oh, no. It's glorious sunshine down here.
So let's kick off with, so when you are not designing or playing board games, what is it you like to do with your spare time?
Well, I'm lucky enough to live in sunny Folkestone, so I quite like going down to the beach and just kind of hanging out, sitting on the beach for a while. There's a place called the Harbour Arm, which when we're not in lockdown, is a fabulous place to go and sit and have a beer. It's the old harbour in Folkestone, and you can sit there in the open air, obviously in the summer this time of year normally, and you've got a glorious view of like the White Cliffs of Dover and all that sort of thing. It's absolutely fabulous, really nice. And apart from that, I've been a historical miniatures wargamer for years and years. So actually, I love painting little toy soldiers. So I do quite a lot of that.
Yep, me too.
Excellent.
Also, I think, on the way down to Essen as well, we took the Channel Tunnel, so we stayed in Folkestone for the night before we got the tunnel as well. It was quite nice.
Ah, right. Oh, well, if you do that again, you have to give us a shout, and I'll show you some good places.
Nice. So what would you say is your favourite game?
I think at the moment the game that I'm enjoying the most is probably Flame Rouge, which I quite like. And I know it's one of those things. I think it feels almost like coming onto like a forum about like game designs feels a little bit like kind of low rent. Like I should really be going for some kind of hardcore Euro as my favorite game. But actually, I really enjoy Flame Rouge. I think it's a lovely, it's an easy game to pick up. There's some beautiful catch-up mechanics in it with I don't know if you've played it, but you've got the drafting, and the fact that the movement is done by selecting cards and the number of cards and stuff rather than rolling dice. It means that you always get a nice tight game out of it. And I love the fact that it just ties in so well with the theme, with the cycling theme. It's just absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've never played it myself, but I have stood over somebody's shoulder and watched them play it at one of our gaming clubs, and they seem to enjoy it. So
yeah, it's great. It's as I say, it's a lovely, simple, and I think that's one of the things that I really like about games personally. Is I prefer the sort of simpler sort of games. So I'm not I'm really not a kind of hardcore Euro gamer at all. So I love the fact that you can have the explanation. You can play through it in 20 minutes, half an hour, and then you can play through it again. And the second time, everybody's up to speed. Everybody like knows the subtleties of the game, and you can just have a really good game with it. It's it's great fun. Yeah.
What kind of games inspire you to create games? It might be the same as what you've said, the easier to play games. But what is it that you think that makes you want to make games?
I think I got into game design actually in a bizarre way. So it's not through playing board games. I actually got into board games through game design. So would you be interested in hearing that story? Shall I run through that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I actually I've got a friend that designs games and things, and he invited me along to one of his playtest sessions. Playtest UK do these game sessions. At the time, I was living in southeast London, and I went along to the southeast London playtest group, and and I just sort of go along and just play other people's games and things, and I just thought, this is so much fun. This is just so good. Just playing through these games, and some of them would be half-baked and absolutely terrible, and others would be really good, and sort of think, man, why isn't this available in the shops? And there was a real mix of different types of games, and some of the guys would come along, and each week you'd sort of see them along with something different and something exciting. So actually, I got into game design through just visiting Playtest UK, not having been a board gamer at all, but having been like more of a war gamer and doing a little bit of role playing and stuff. And then I just enjoyed that environment so much that I just sort of wanted to get my own games out and put my own games on the table.
Yeah, that's good. And I remember playing Mob Sitters at UK Expo last year when we sat down because you were next door to us, obviously.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, it was just thoroughly enjoyable. And that was
Oh,
then.
good.
Now it's a year
Yeah.
later, so it must be.
Yeah, it hasn't changed at all. I don't think so. It's still the same game, and it's still and I don't know, at the risk of sounding like really horribly biased, I think it's a really good game. I think it's I think it's not. I think it's my sort of game, and I think as a games designer, that's what I'm really interested in. Is like I want to produce games that I want to play. I want to produce games that I can play with my friends and really, really enjoy. And yeah, all that sort of things. And I'm very proud of Mob Sitters, and I'm very pleased with it. Yeah.
When coming up with your games, where do you start first?
Um, I think there's a difference. There's been a different starting point for different games. So with my first game was Robot Royale, and with that, it was the idea behind Robot Royale is that robots are in a maze that's moving around, and they've got robots that they're controlling, and they turn a tile, and the robot moves, and if they get line of sight to another robot, they shoot them. Um, and the idea behind that started from, again, I think that was the first game that I put on the game to do on the table for playtesting. And I just had this idea that I wanted to do something which had like moving pieces and moving tiles and things. And the idea for me was actually thinking about my childhood and thinking about the game Downfall, which was advertised on TV at the time. And I can't remember if I ever actually played it, but I remember seeing it advertised on TV and thinking that looks so cool. And of course, obviously, if you look at Downfall and Robot Royale, there's absolutely nothing. There's nothing similar about them at all. But it's like an odd sort of starting point, and that was kind of teased out there. With Mob Sitters, I was thinking about The Sopranos actually, and I was thinking it'd be really great to do like a game that's set in that sort of world. But like with The Sopranos, a big part of the story was to do with the whole psychiatry thing and the fact that he's seeing a shrink and all that sort of thing. And I thought that's so interesting when you take that kind of gangster world, that kind of hardcore manly world, and then sort of say, well, actually, what else happens in that world that you don't normally see but must happen? And I sort of thought, well, they must need babysitters. Surely, everyone with kids needs a babysitter at some point. So I started exploring the idea of like, well, how once you've got these babysitters, like how do you make a game out of that? And I sort of thought, well, what if they were doing jobs for the boss, and what if they were stealing from the boss, and all this kind of stuff, and just sort of, and then gradually sort of teasing out the mechanics from the theme with that one. And then I will just mention one more, which is just a small little game that I think I'm going to release as a print and play in the next week or two, and it's called Whiz Up the Wall. And the idea is that you're little trainee wizards in a wizard school, and you try and see how far you can way up the wall, basically. So whiz up the wall.
It's a name with a double meaning. It's brilliant.
Absolutely. And the way I came up with that idea was it was actually at UK Games last year. I was standing at the urinals having a wee, and behind me I could hear this dad talking to his son, and all of a sudden the dad just shouts, "No, stand closer, stand closer!" I didn't turn around and look at what was going on, but I just had this picture of this kid standing in the middle of the room trying to shoot across and hit the thing, and I thought there's got to be a game there. So that's where that one came from.
Yeah, I'm going to be keeping an eye out for that one.
Yeah.
Because you've taken games from your mind all the way to then going on and selling them. During the process of that, what is a obstacle or a barrier that you've hit and you've thought, this is going to be difficult, and then how did you overcome it?
I think there's two parts to that. There's the part as a game designer, like how do you take a game from kind of here to something that people play and are happy with, and that you'd be happy to present to a publisher. And then the second part is kind of like as a publisher, once you've got a game? How do you develop it and then turn it from like just a game, turn it from a game into a saleable product? And I think I think for me the first part I think for games designers is just I think be prepared to fail, I would say, and be prepared to be shot down. Be prepared to sort of have someone sort of say, "Oh, yeah, it's not really that good. It's not my sort of game." Just like be prepared for all of that sort of stuff, because not everybody's going to like your game, and also I think be prepared to listen to what people say and think about whether they've got a point, and see whether you can come back with something. So there was another game I was working on recently that I put in front of a couple of people, and they played it, and I sort of explained the concept of the game, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this sounds great. This sounds really, really excited to get that." We played it, and like afterwards it was like the kind of classic tumbleweed, and they're kind of like, "Yeah, no, that was just rubbish. That was like barely a game." And then so I sort of thought, "Oh, well, that's interesting," but I was still convinced that there was a good
Oh, we just lost you, I think. Can you hear me okay?
game. I think I was even more negative. And so
I lost
so
you
I played
there.
it. Oh, sorry.
I lost you. No, it went off. It cut off there a little bit.
Oh,
Let's
sorry.
go back to where did it cut off? Yeah, you were still convinced there was a game there.
Okay. Yeah. So I was still convinced there was a game there. So I thought, right, okay, what I'll do is I'll take it to another playtest group. So I took it along to the other playtest group, and I sort of said, look, I've played this once. It was a bit flat, but I think there's a game. And we played through it. And as we played through it, they were sort of saying, oh, actually, what if we did this? What if we did that? And literally, as we were playing through the game, ideas were evolving and stuff. And actually, that played much better. And also, they gave me a lot of ideas or a couple of key suggestions to actually go away and then improve it. And then I went back and took it back to one of the first guys I played it with. Yeah, the miserable lot, yeah. And they're like, "This is a great game." Why? And they were like, "Why didn't I like this before? This is great." And I was like, "It's not the same game that you played before, you know." So there's that. So I think there's that thing of like stick. You know, if you've got an idea for a game and you think it's good, stick with it, keep going, and not that necessarily going to sort of hammer people into submission, but I think it's good to just not give up necessarily straight away, but also I think try other games as well. You know, have I know it's not uncommon for designers to have like lots of different games on the go. I think at the moment I've got somewhere between 15 to 20 different games at different stages. And some of them are abysmal. Some of them are just barely ideas and all that sort of thing. So going back to the original question, the other part of it is what's the biggest problem or challenge you face as a publisher? And I think for me, I think to be honest, it's funding and it's money and it's it's that thing of like everything that you do costs money. You turn up to a show and like the stand costs money, your displays cost money. If you're staying away from staying away from home, then the hotels cost money. That's just for a show, but then you've got to get your prototypes together, and obviously prototypes are, although you're not getting that many of them done, they're still, depending on the sort of game, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 pounds 25 a pop for a prototype, for a decent prototype. Then there's, I don't know, advertising and whatever else, and also artwork. Artwork isn't free unless you happen to be a fantastic artist, which I'm not. Artwork is really not free. So I think the biggest hurdle is just kind of getting the money and financing that thing, which is obviously why Kickstarter can help so much. But I think even to get a product to the stage where you're happy to put it out on Kickstarter, you've got to have done you've got to have put a lot of money up front to even, get to the sort of hello world, here I am on Kickstarter stage, let alone production. So I think just scraping that money together is the hardest thing.
Yep, no, you're right. That is a big one. And it's surprising nobody's mentioned that one yet either. I think
Yeah,
that's probably one of the most important barriers to produce it, or even from a designer's point of view, even getting it onto
yeah,
something like Kickstarter, because you can't
yeah,
just go to Kickstarter and say I've got a game. You have to
yeah,
present them with some artwork. You have to present
yeah,
with even a basic version of
yeah,
the rules need to be presented. It's
yeah,
yeah, it's definitely something that people need to think about when they get into it.
yeah, yeah.
When so this let's go with this one. Have you ever played a game, and you don't have to name it, that you absolutely didn't like, and what was the theme or the genre or the mechanic that made you put you off the game?
Yeah, I'm a real lightweight gamer. So like you could name probably like half a dozen of your favorite games, and I'll think they'll stink, because I'm just not into heavy hardcore games. I think but the problem is I really like the idea of them. So I really like the idea of a good complex engine builder. But whenever I play those sorts of games, I just sort of think, what's going on? Who's like, hang on, how come I've only got like 10 wheelbarrows and he's got 50? What's going like, how did that, what, like, so I just, yeah, I think, yeah, so I think any game that requires a lot of mathematics and a lot of like real kind of hardcore thinking things through, I really struggle with those sorts of games. And again, I know I'm talking a lot about playtesting, but I remember I was at a playtest session once and there was a guy there who's literally an award-winning playtester, really excellent games, like phenomenal games that are excellent. And we played one of his games, and it was so complex. At the end of it, I said, "Do people actually like these sorts of games?" And it sounded so scathing and so horrible and so mean, and I'm really not like that. But it was just a genuine question. I thought, because I thought he's an award-winning designer. Is like, do people actually like these sorts? Because to me, it was absolutely abhorrent. I was just like my head was just hurting. I was like, what is going on here? But as I say, it's nothing. I was almost lynched, I think, at that playtest session for saying that, and rightly so. It was quite a rude thing to say, and I feel a little bit. It was never my intent to.
Well, hopefully he
It
watches
was
this.
never my intent to be offensive, but it was just a genuine question of like, wow, and obviously there are tens of hundreds of thousands of people that love complex games. There's a whole, like people really love Euros. People, like it's a big part of the hobby. It's a big part of the industry. But they're just not for me. I'm very much your sort of sort of beer and pretzels kind of games, really.
Yeah, which is perfectly fine. How has the state of the world at present affected the way that you make and design games?
Um, at the moment, I run E Street Games with it's myself and my business partner Liam, and Liam's been furloughed from his day job, so neither of us do E Street Games as our full time thing. So so that means that Liam's been. So the fact that he's been furloughed from his day job has meant that he's been able to spend a lot more time doing E Street Game stuff, which is great for us. I'm working part time now with in my day job because my hours have been reduced, of course. So it means that I've got more time to spend. So what we're doing is games that we thought we'd be working on in a year's time. We're starting to like do some of the design work on them. We're starting to do some of the artwork on them. We're starting to bring things forward. We're putting stuff out on. Well, obviously, you saw. The tabletop simulator. We put Mob Sitters out on there. We're about to launch hopefully a couple of games as free downloads for print and play. So we're doing that sort of thing, really.
So, what are you working on right now?
I've got a few things on the go at the moment. Whiz Up the Wall, I've already mentioned. Hopefully, we'll have that available as a print and play shortly. Also working on a sort of a gangster dice rolling card print and play thing, which again hopefully should be available in the next week or two. in terms of like what we're working on for future releases, the next big game I'm working on is a game called Inhumane Resources, and the idea behind that is the players are managers, HR managers in a big corporation, and the HR director has handed in a notice, and they want to basically get her job. And the way they get her job is by completing challenges. And they only have enough resources, so you get a deck of cards as resources, and you only have enough. You're never going to have enough resources to complete a challenge on your own. So you have to invite people to help you complete these challenges, and then they basically bid for the number of points that they want to be given to help you. So there's a negotiation thing going on there. But then also they can backstab you as well. So they can sort of say, "Oh yeah, I'll give you this resource and that resource, and I'll do it like cheap as chips." But then they might not give you those resources. They might give you something else, or they might slip in a blame card and like sort of say, and be able to say, "I told you it's always going to go wrong," and all that sort of stuff. And then and so they might actually be trying to sabotage you. And actually, that game is it's kind of it's my I can't think of what the word is. It's my common. I don't know what the word is. It's like a commentary on modern
social
HR.
Commentary.
Social commentary, yeah, on sort of the world of HR. I'm having a pop at them. Let's not mince our words here. Yeah, and I've also got another game that I'm working on, which I'm quite excited about, which is sort of wizards having sort of a sports day where they're sort of running through the woods, and it's kind of racing wizards that are sort of trying to trip each other up and trying to like get ahead in this race through the woods. Yeah, so I'm quite
influenced by Flamme Rouge at all.
It is. Yeah. You could see that, couldn't you? Yeah, it's a bit different in as much as it's got dice and spells, and who doesn't love spells? So, so as you're going through, you kind of try and sort of collect gems and things, and then you can turn those gems into spells as you go to try and get the edge on your opponent. So so that's quite good fun.
Yeah, sounds very interesting. What is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody thinking of getting into this game?
Don't do it. Leave it to me. No. Only joking. I think what would I say? I think don't try and do it on your own. I think you've got to I don't think it's possible for anybody to do this stuff on their own. It's like even I know you obviously interviewed Jamie Stegmaier or whatever, and it's very tempting to sort of think, well, actually he's doing it all on his own, but he's not. He's got it might only be a couple of like himself, one or two other people that are full time, but he's got a whole team of people that support him and make it happen. And I think build those relationships, work with people. And find people that you can work well with. I think that's so important because I think we don't. I know for myself, I don't always. I think having that accountability, where you sort of say to each other, oh, what are you working on this week? What are you working on? This is what I'm doing. What are you doing? And all that sort of thing is really helpful and it really drives the development along in terms of publishing and stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's about the people you work with. It really is. Nobody can do it on their own. If somebody can do it on their own, I want to hear from them and how they've done it, because I don't think I'd be able to do it on my own.
No.
But yeah, that has been brilliant. Thank you very much for coming and talking to me today.
And
talking to me today, Paul.
Thanks ever so much. Good to speak to you again, Chris. Can I just say to everyone, please do check out our website, eaststreetgames.com, and do sign up for our mailing list. Thank you ever so much. A shameless plug there.